Hi, I'm Sophie and welcome to my world. Today we're going to be doing a little project that is inspired by Peter Gardner's Glovetopus, and you can find him on glovetopus.com. So it's glovetopus.com with a T-O. We'll have a link down below. He created these at Maker Faire a couple years ago. I think it was 2012, 2013. And I saw these and I thought these were the cutest thing I had ever seen. And so I learned how to make the Glovetopus, and I decided that I wanted to try something else. And so I came up with the Toetopus. And what I use the Toetopus is these fabulous toe socks. So I'm going to teach you how to make a Glovetopus, but he's going to be a Toetopus. For this project, you're going to need toe socks, thread, needle, stuffing, scissors, buttons and other embellishments, and a hot glue gun. You're going to open up these toe socks, and what we're going to be doing is stuffing the toes. And you want to do this a little teeny tiny bit of stuffing at a time. You don't want to get overzealous with your stuffing, because you're going to find that it's hard. If you put like a big lump in, it's hard to push in. So you want to just take a little bit and you want to push it first into that tiny little baby toe. Then take a little bit more stuffing and push it on down into that second toe. And you want to try to fill these up as much as you can. Fill those toes. Stuff those toes. And push the third one in, and the fourth. And you see, I'm only using about a handful of stuffing for each one. Pushing it in there. And if you find that it's hard to use your fingers to push it in, you can use like a pencil or, something like a dowel. And now we're going to do the last one, which is the big toe. So we just take a little bit more stuffing, put it in there, and push it in to get the big toe. So it kind of ends up looking sort of like a coxcomb, like a rooster's crow hat, his little headpiece, his comb. Okay, now what we're going to do is take more stuffing. The thing about this is we're going to have two of these and we're going to put them together, so it doesn't need to be puffed out too much. And the other thing is, you don't have to fill it all the way to the end. I'm only going to make mine up to this white one right up here, that white stripe, because they don't need to be ginormous. Although if you want to, you can make it long. I mean, it's up to you. It depends on the socks that you're able to get. Like I said, I was able to find these at the dollar store. So as you see, I'm kind of stuffing it and pushing it down, so that I end up with a nice stuffy. Now you could turn this into like a little stuffy right here if you just wanted to sew that closed, but we're going to be making this toe pie. So I've already got one done, and I have my second one done, and I'm going to flip this over so that the big toes are facing away from each other. So big toe out, like that. And I'm going to be sewing these two pieces together. One of the things that I found is very, very helpful is, got my string here, I'm going to use about a yard. I know that seems like a lot, but that way I don't have to keep threading and non-threading and threading and non-threading and threading and non-threading. This is one of these amazing little threaders. And when I was a kid, I didn't know how to use one, so I thought it might be great to show you how to use it. So you've got this little threader. See this little teeny wire part? You put that through the eye of the needle. Then you take your string, or thread, I should say, and thread it through the wire. So your wire has the thread threaded through it, and then, you ready for this? You just pull this back, and it threads your needle. So if you happen to be in a place that is low light, or if your eyesight, like mine, is a little tweaky, it's easy to use that little threader. Really makes life so much easier than trying to thread a needle. But if you don't have one, you're just going to have to thread that needle the old-fashioned way, like that. Okay, So I've tied a knot at the end. If you didn't see that, what I did is I just wrapped it around my finger and tucked those two ends in, tied a knot. To begin sewing my toetopi, what I'm going to do is, like I said, put big toe, they're facing away from each other. Line up my stripes. So I'm going to turn this sideways, just line up those stripes. And I can help myself by just taking my needle, and I'm going to take my needle from one side and sew it through to the other side so that I'm sewing these two together. Now, one of the things about string like this is you're going to find that it will want to pull apart and loop around those toes. Don't let that upset you, just go slow. See how it likes to loop on the toes? When you get started in the beginning, that happens. Okay, so holding it together here, I'm just going to stitch over. And I like to start, because this is the bottom, this is where the beginning of the toetopi is. I want to start at the bottom here, and I want to give this 3-4 good stitches. Like that, before I start heading up. Now I've found that the best thing to do is just kind of hold it with one hand like this, so that I'm squeezing these two edges together. And I'm just going to start sewing. So I go through one side, the side that's closest to me, push it across that chasm, that seam, have the needle come out the other end, and pull it up. Watch for those toes. Then come back over towards myself. From the side that's closest to me, feed the needle through, push it through the fabric, under that chasm, and bring it out the other side, and then loop it up. So I'm going around. So I'm sort of going up. Sorry, it gets caught on those toes, like I told you. Up and around. Let's try to get a nice clean stitch before we move on. So up, towards myself, pushing through away from me, under the chasm, out the other side. One more time. Now you're going to continue doing that all the way up to the end of where you stuffed. As you can see, that's what I've done here. I've sewn all the way up to the end of where I've stuffed. Now what I want to do here is I want to give this a little bit of a rounded shape. If you don't want that rounded shape, as you can see how he's kind of rounded here and rounded here, see how he's got that little rounded part? If you want that to be a little squarer, if you want it to be kind of squared off, just go right to the edge and then start sewing across. But because I want to round it a little bit, what I'm going to do is I've got myself to the point where I'm going to sew across, and that's where there's no more stuffing. So I'm going to come up, and now instead of going around like I was before, I'm going to go down, just straight down, and pull it. And then on the opposite side, I'm going to come up from the opposite side and pull it. This is, I believe, called a running stitch. Now I'm sure that I'm going to get some folks who say, Sophie, you've called it the wrong thing, but I think it's called a running stitch. Now, we are going to make our way across. And again, all you got to do is line those lines up. In this case, it's nice because there's stripes. And you may find that the socks that you get don't have stripes. And if they don't have stripes, then actually it's probably a little easier because if you get off, you won't be able to tell. They won't match up because there's nothing to match up. So once again, I'm going up and down. So I'm starting at the bottom, pulling up, and then just doing a little stitch down and pull it from the bottom. And then I'm going to bring my needle up, watch your fingers, and down. And pulling up, whoops, and down. And you're going to do this all the way across. So we're just going up and down. Now, I personally am not great at sewing. I have to admit that. But I do find that it's very, oh, I don't know, zen to sew. There's something really kind of nice about it. And there's something nice about being able to go back to an old-fashioned kind of crafting, which sewing definitely is. All right, now we are at the edge where we're going to start going down. And once again, I'm going to slowly kind of make my way down at a little angle here to the pink stripe. And the reason I'm doing that is because I want to round this down. So I'm just going to keep going down and up and down and up. Now when I get to this edge here where the pink, when I've got, there we go. I've arrived at the pink. When I arrive at the pink, I want to start that around stitch again. I used to call it, and again, I don't know if this is the correct name for it, and I'm sure that if I've got it wrong, you guys can tell me in the comments below. But my mom always used to call it a whip stitch, but I'm not sure if that's exactly what it's called. But what I'm basically doing is I'm going around. So I go around and down and pull. Around, push it through, and pull. Around, push it through and pull. And again, I want to do about 3, 4, 5 stitches here just to make sure that it's nice and secure. And then I'm going to start heading down the opposite side, just like it did on the other one. So closest to me, under the chasm, out the other side, and around. And you're just going to keep going down, 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 down until you get to the bottom.